Hi, I'm Mark, and this is the Sandpoint Community Garden, and we don't have a plot in the community garden, but just as a result of this whole garden essence energy, we finally started our own garden. We had been wanting to do that, and it just seemed too hard, so we just never got around to it. But this year, finally, we put in our own organic garden and actually did pretty well with it. We learned some lessons. We'll be able to do better with it next year and in future years, but it was an exciting, big step forward for both of us.
Hi, I'm Cricket Winsong. I'm part of the health group and also the education group, working groups of STI. And our whole premise is to create a healthful environment for us all to live in that is sustainable within our own community. And what better way than a community garden? And from that offshoot, we built and created our own garden in our own backyard. One of the things I want to emphasize is that we've been purchasing organic food in our local markets, which is a great first step for those who are not gardeners themselves. But the next step after that is creating your own garden in your backyard. And that's what Mark and I did because of the emphasis in the community garden.
Hi, Karen Lanfear, and because of this community garden, I, for the first time, started a perennial garden last year, and this year was my very first time to have an annual garden. And this is not only a garden that's growing things and building community, it's an educational garden. So we are looking at all the different ways that we can use this as a place to teach people about gardening. And you can see there are no fences, there are no ways that are binding this, so anybody can walk through at any time and look. So it's an expression of faith, and it's also an expression of potential for our community in terms of what we can learn from each other.
And so this is the project the food group of STI created starting 2 years ago. This is our second year, and we started this whole area on a third of an acre of grass. And if you get a view of this at all, we've got 60 raised beds. We've got a communal portion of our garden over there, which goes to the food bank. And each of the plotters tithes at least 10% of their own plot to the food bank or any mission work or anything. So the process that I learned through this, having wanted to quit on several occasions of being a part of this because it was too tough, it was a struggle, getting volunteers, getting people to come and show up and help with all of this. We ended up, the normal stuff is we ended up with like 5 people that would always show up, and they were doing the bulk of the work. What we learned in the process is that we changed a few things in the way way we handled it the first year, and made it better this year. And again, I mean, you've heard this before. It was all about having fun with this because it was an amazing amount of work. Physical and mental, and then coordinating it and getting people interested, selling the plots, da. But once we got that done, there was a sense of community, and I've really truly made some good friends in the community, the garden community, as well as through STI. But the garden was I started out as a worker bee, and with STI, and I joined the food group because I was interested in gardening. I'm not a great gardener. I just like to garden. And then I got involved with the food group, which was doing a community garden, and things went on, and I got really involved with it, and I kind of do the communication with the food group, coordinate stuff. But what I've learned is we've got gardeners that started and knew nothing about even how to plant a seed that came and showed up. And then we've got master gardeners that are in the community garden, and they help, and everybody ends up helping each other. This one doesn't know what's eating that one, and it's usually me because I've stolen some vegetables from their garden, but they think it's a bug. So we go around all the different plots, and we go around and look at certain things that are happening with plants, and somebody will say, well, you've got mites, and or you've got this going on, or there's not enough fertilizer, and that kind of thing. So we didn't do any workshops this year, but we did do a lot of coming together and taking a look at each garden plot and saying, hey, this looks good, this is bad, you can't plant this with that. And just through just being together, we learned a lot about gardening. The biggest reward for me was going to the food bank, with 20 pounds of vegetables, and them being so appreciative, saying thank you, this is so needed. And our food bank here, the need has doubled in the last year. I mean, you're talking from, I think it was 1,800 to 3,500 families, they're feeding now in the same facility. And so the food becomes very, very important in this, and we can give it. I mean, people are giving from their own plots and the community portion of it. So it's been very rewarding for me, and I'm not a group person at all. I have never been involved in a group situation. And this one just kind of, took on its own life, and it took my life actually, as I was going to take my own life during the process, but it was well worth the effort. Now we've got this, it's great.
The other offshoot of this garden has been the fact that STI has incorporated as a 501c3 so that we can help manage grant opportunities for other people. And a woman came to us wanting to help start gardens in schools. And so we did receive a grant to do that. And so we have one that started out in the Northside School to create an edible garden. That was so successful at the end of the school year, they had so much lettuce that they almost ran out of salad dressing in that school, which I think is like one of the major tributes in the universe. They then sold the excess lettuce to a local restaurant. From that, they went out and wrote this grant, and we are going to now start 3 new gardens in schools in our region. Pat also helped other groups that came to her just asking questions. How do we do this? How do you reach out? So the effect of a garden, of planting the seeds of the original plot, of the struggles that ensued, which are normal in any growth process, have now blossomed into that. And behind us is a sunflower, and the sunflower is the logo of STI. So how all the petals come together around a beautiful big core that's fertile and ready to blossom and to produce itself again. So those are the working groups of STI, and this is just another example of how the groups, so the health, the education, and the folk school have come together around the garden idea.
Well, this started before I joined the STI. This was done, Karen was involved in it, and Richard was involved in it, I believe, and talking with the city. This is city property. They donated, well, through somebody's hard work it was. I had nothing to do with that. When I joined on, but we have 1/3 of an acre here, and it's part of a park, and it was all grass. And when I first got here, I looked at this and I said, how are we going to do this? This is like not going to be easy. And it just ended up, ended up starting with the first year, we had 24 raised beds with no frames. The frames are new this year. And then a community portion of the garden, and this year we ended up with 60 raised beds, so and all framed in. We've gotten donations from the community. The visibility for this area has helped us tremendously, because people drive by and say, wow, and what's this, and how can I get involved? So that's helped not only with the volunteers, but it's also helped with the donations. We've had, most of the soil was donated, because this is not, we've added soil here. All of the lumber was donated. Our garden shed was donated. We had a beautiful community garden sign made that was donated. And it didn't come because we were just, standing here. We went out and worked, and asked for donations and things, but also the visibility, again, was why we got the play that we got. We sold out all of our beds this year in May, which was, we didn't even sell all of them last year. So everything's progressing. So it's really kind of a wonderful, it's just taking off. And as Karen had mentioned, Ponderay, another town here, has started their own community garden. And I met with a guy and, and went out to see it and all that kind of stuff, and offered whatever help we can offer them. And that's the point about doing what we're doing, is it's not doing it all ourselves, it's creating the interest where people will take the ball and run with it. And that's what's happening. It's like with the schools. It's great. Absolutely great.
The other thing, if you take a picture later on of the cardboard that's here, Richard would be able to speak to the idea of how you create a layered garden. So for weed protection and stuff. So we're trying to incorporate the permaculture design principles in this garden as well. And because it's just beginning, of course, we don't have all those principles illustrated here, but there are many things that are going on here that we're trying to use as an open classroom for helping other people get with the idea of permaculture with growing. So Richard, do you have anything that, in terms of the process of how we develop?
Yeah, I actually was not really involved in doing this, but I know that other folks that understood about permaculture principles and permaculture in general. So basically you can start a garden in the same year where you start, you can actually harvest. And the simplest way to do it, whatever is growing there, I mean, if it's grass and if it's too brushy, that wouldn't work. But grassy and forbs and stuff, you flatten it down, put cardboard on it, and then build the bed on top of that. So you put in soil, make frame bags or raised beds or something called hügelculture, which is basically a rounded mound, and you plant them right in there. If you have a plant that you know is going to need deeper roots, like a berry bush or something, you would actually punch through the cardboard and make sure the roots can go through. That's in a very briefly nutshell how this works. What I wanted to share is that what I see happening with the whole the food system, the local food system is, I think, one of the key elements of transitioning to a more resilient and self-sustaining community, where we become independent from the global food system and also in that way independent from any disruptions of the supply chain of energy resources. The mineral oil gets too expensive and so on and so forth. If we can produce to a certain amount food locally that we would need, that's one of the key systems. And everybody likes good food, good tasty food, local, from the farmers and growers that they know. Everybody loves that. And so we have several elements of this local food system developing. One of them is the community garden. There's the Six Rivers Market we mentioned before. That's a food co-op. There is several CSAs. We have several organic farmers, and they actually have been increasing in the last year. Noticeably, I have noticed at the farmers market. We have the food bank. We also, in the first year, I don't know if you remember, didn't we give food to some church community, and they pass it on to needy families?
Right.
So there's several different elements coming together. There's this year also a small farmers apprentice program happening, which we hope it's going to increase. So slowly these different elements come together, and I think down the road in a few years we will produce much more food locally than we do today. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah. And from the education standpoint, we have shown a variety of films that have empowered the community to grow healthy plants and vegetables and vegetation. Some of the wonderful films we have shown is Food Inc., The Future of Food, King Corn, Newman, The Nature of Plants. That's a few of them that empower the community to see what is available in our local markets and recognize how unhealthy the food is in our local markets. And so that empowers the people to then take responsibility for themselves and make powerful changes in their lives. And I think that is the key, that we, each of us, have the power to change our life experiences. And so the community garden is a perfect example of this, how we can collectively work together.
Yeah, and the other thing that's really important to realize in any community is the fact that this is all volunteer. None of us have been paid to do any of this.
You haven't been paid?
Oh, you got something?
Go ahead.
Now it came out.
So running on the energy of that volunteer and that goodwill energy is so important, and that's why the great disclaimer of the fact that we can't do this alone. Our chance for survival, our chance for building community, only comes when we reach out to each other. So I just wanted to make the note that don't wait for the money, because the money's not coming. Pull your energy together and have a good time putting something else together.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't say the money isn't coming, it's just not here yet. So we have some,
That's another
That's a better way of putting it, actually.
we just have some options in the meantime to share.
Another important thing that nobody's mentioned here yet, surprisingly, is a few months ago at one of our core group meetings, we agreed that we wanted to center the entire STI effort around one central issue.
Right.
And the issue that we chose was food, because it's something that impacts everything, every aspect of transition, every aspect of life, whether it's health, which is what I'm interested in the most, whether it's transportation, whether it's energy, whether it's housing, everything. Food occupies a part of that, and all of those things have a relationship with food. And so that was the one thing that we decided that we would focus our efforts on, center our efforts around, because it's so important. And this, again, is a very central part of that.
Because it came up about how do you do this without any money? Maybe a few words on that. We have from the beginning, for example, this big unleashing event that we all worked together really quite a while, pretty hard, was very successful, and we didn't have any funds. So the inspiration for us really came from the understanding that, well, I think there is a lot of resources there, we just need to find a way to hook into them and find them. And then actually Karen and Berta, they came up with the idea of, okay, let's talk to 20 folks of our community and ask for a specific amount of money, which we had kind of figured out it would be kind of the bare minimum to get through with our big unleashing. And it worked like a charm. And then what happened is local businesses, they started offering, well, we can print for you for free, black and white. And if you want color, we can give you a really good price. And the next thing, so many things happened like that, where people came through and either gave it for free, were in kind, or made us a really reasonable offer to pay for their efforts. So I think it has a lot to do with finding the ways and connecting again to people, because then they are inspired and they want to help, and then they have a way to help this way. Maybe they don't have a lot of time. So we have been very successful so far, and sometimes I think, well, if we just would have $1 million, then we would change the world like in a second. I don't think that's how it's going to work, really.
Well, let's try it.
See, and that's our diversity of opinion that we have here.
I'm willing to try.
Are you offering up the $1 million?
No,
Yeah,
I'm offering.
Are you selling your house? Yeah, right now, I know. So it's one aspect I've been asking many times in transition trainings. So how do you finance this? And this goes a long, long way. And then also a few of us that have been very passionate about it and involved have also supported it a little bit. But I have to say, it's not even hundreds of dollars. I remember I had like $20 or $25 for like a video that we really wanted to show, and I decided I actually really want to have it for myself. So I spent the money, had it with the correct rights, so we can actually publicly show it, and then the education group chose to show it. So there's many, many ways like that we can do it.
And with the films, we have a cooperative what's the name? Arrangement with our local library. It's been a godsend because they had the rights to show all types of films, so that we didn't have to have the rights for each and every film to show. And so it has been marvelous in that exchange. And we couldn't have done it without the library.
Yeah, and there's also the fact we have been able to not charge for any of the events that we have been doing except for the unleashing. And that was really low. We asked for $5, and you could actually get also special where two persons could come to the event for $5.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. I mean, I really commend everybody who has been involved in being able to pull this off so far.
The steps are pretty simple once you go through them. They weren't so simple if you're just doing it willy-nilly. But I mean, number one is you have to have water. That's a real biggie. I mean, if somebody offers land, you better make sure they've got water there, or you got to put it in.
Also how you pay for that.
Pardon?
And also how you pay for that.
Yeah, well, you pay for it. Well, we're very fortunate in the group because we lease these plots out. So we bring in money so that we can afford to, I mean, we have to pay for the water. We pay the city for the water. They haven't offered to pay for it yet, Gretchen. So we pay for that. We happen to get a grant this year, so it paid for the water. But I mean, all the tools that we have and all the things that we've gotten have not been for free. People have donated money. I mean, Karen's donated money. I've donated money. Everybody's donated money to some STI event or STI project because we need to get it off the ground. But the garden is a little bit different because we can charge for the plots, and it's just enough to operate this garden. I mean, we're not making any money. 7x7 is $30 and a 4x8 is $20. And all that does is cover the water, because if we don't get a grant, we don't have any water covered, and our water's about $500 for the season. So it's we're able to pay our own way because we've gotten a lot of donations, the soil and all of that kind of thing. Soil, if the ground is good, I mean, have the soil tested, that's really important. But I mean, if the soil is good where you are, there are ways of amending it. You have to do it pretty quickly, but to get a garden in the same year. But we had soil brought in. We chose not to dig up because this would all have had to have been dug up, the grass turned under. So cardboard is the first. You've got cardboard that's laid under every part of this area is cardboard. And what that does is kill the grass. Then you've got the soil that goes on top of that. We chose to do raised beds. Shredded bark is on top of the cardboard for the pathways. Just looking around. Well, all the equipment, hoses and all of that, most of it was donated, but we just got shovels donated, but we went out and solicited a lot of it. But we also did something that is really important for any community, is get involved with your local newspaper, because they're the best advertisement you've got. Write articles. That's what we've done. I mean, in all parts of the transition is writing articles to get people aware of what's going on in the community. And so that's really important, but it's real basic.
Relationship with nurseries too.
Yeah, relationship with your nurseries. And I mean, we got free seeds, we've got, and we've got people that love to help and give advice. So I mean, it's really kind of a simple thing. It's all about community. The things here that you need are just basically what you see. I mean, the wood was extra. I mean, that was something that we just, got out of sheer luck. These are 8 inches. It's sufficient for what's grown here. I mean, people have grown corn. I mean, look at the sunflower. Nobody's had really any problems with the depth of that. I mean, I'd go a little bit higher. My beds at home are 15 inches deep. But I mean, they've got carrots growing. So you've got, of course, they're little stubby carrots, but they've got carrots growing over there. So no, it hasn't been an issue. Mine are 15 because I just wanted deeper. I don't have soil in the ground because my soil's so bad where I live.
It's a matter of comfort too.
Yeah, and it's a matter of comfort, right? A higher bed is easier to, Those are 3 feet and the paths are 4 feet. And it's really important to make sure you have enough width in between beds, because when you're dragging hoses, it'll wreck everything unless you've got, you got to have space. That's what I did in my garden at home as well, because I knew you get a wheelbarrow through because you've got to haul stuff. And so planning it out, it was planned out, not the way I'd planned it out the second time around, but it was planned out pretty well. 4 feet's enough. 3 feet in between the beds, so people can, because if you've got, a tall person, you lean over and you're in somebody's nasturtium, And and I mean that. So it's kind of like where you're walking on somebody's tomato plant. So yeah, it's important to don't worry about think of the loss of room. You've got plenty of room to work with and grow things. It becomes a comfort thing, and it gets really irritating if you don't do it right. People won't come back because this one's dragging their hose over this and this one's stepping on that. So yeah, it's a consideration. Well, ours are this is an 8x8 actually, which I wouldn't recommend. What I would recommend is all 4x8s because you can get into either side. By either side, you can get to the whole bed. And yeah, you can do a keyhole, which a couple of people have done, which is cutting out a portion of the bed, and you can walk in there and then get to the other plant. But I would recommend 4x8s, and that's the maximum, period. We have certain rules and regulations of the garden, and they're not really difficult to follow. One of the ones that really is that people that have a plot need to give 10% of what they grow to the food bank. Because, I mean, this is really what it's all about. It's about the community, and people have enough. There's enough in a plot this size, by the way, to do pretty well for the summer. You can plant quite a bit in this size plot. But we have to sign off for the city as well, because when you're on city land, there are certain things you have to agree with. But it's really basic stuff that you got to give some time and effort when you get here and you own your plot. You've got to make sure it's weeded and looks nice because it's very visual. But nothing real tough to follow. This year, tomatoes did not do well in northern Idaho. Nobody's gotten a great deal of ripe tomatoes. You can grow just about anything here. Sweet potatoes are tough. We don't have a long enough summer. But what we tell everybody, or we'll tell everybody next year, is when you buy early varieties of things because our season is so short. Oh, broccoli, zucchini, strawberries, carrots, nasturtiums, sunflowers, corn, zucchini, cabbage, kale, poppies. There's a whole host of wildflowers over there. Kohlrabi and peas and beans and chard, sunflowers. Anything you can think of has gone in this garden. I mean, and we got some pretty large zucchinis. Embarrassingly large. But these are, it's just look around. I mean, you got everything here. It's just whatever people like. And we tell them to plant. I suggest that everybody that grows anything, that's starting their garden out, grows radishes because they're up in 22 days and it's exciting. All of a sudden you see, wow, this is really growing and you've got radishes in 22 days. So I suggest everybody plants radishes. It's the most rewarding one of the bunch, because it's first.
Onion and garlic.
Yeah, onion, garlic, right.
Last year we gave 1,000 pounds. How much did
Yeah,
we
we
give this
gave
year?
over 1,000 pounds to the food bank last year. That was just what was documented, because if you don't tell them it's from the garden, they don't mark it down. And then we gave to other missions as well, other, charity organizations. This year we don't have a tally yet, but it's just, it just does your soul good to know that it's going to people that really need it. It really is a cool thing.
The other thing that grows in this area are berries.
Oh yeah, that's right. We have raspberry bushes over there.
Blueberries,
yep.
Strawberries, all types of berries.
Yeah.
So don't forget the berries.
We've done very well. The community has really pitched in. It's been a wonderful experience.